Thanks for joining. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining, and we'll be starting in just a couple of minutes, waiting for some more people to log on in. Thank you for joining. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. Hello, thank you for joining. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. We'll wait 2 more minutes. Hello, can everyone hear me? If you can give me a thumbs up, panelists. Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening for those of you who are joining in right now. My name is Todd Gregson. I am the CEO for TalkWalker The Americas, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar, Building a Foundation of Fandom, How Beloved Brands Like Lego Leverage Social Followings. Welcome, gentlemen. I am here with David Meerman Scott and James Gregson. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
Well, let me give you some introductions here. David is a marketing and PR powerhouse who has been at the forefront of the field for many years. He is the father of the term newsjacking. I remember my days at PR Newswire when I first heard that term, and I was best-selling book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR, which was more than 400 copies sold, and more than 29 languages, ranging from Albanian to Vietnamese. His latest book, which he co-authored with his mother, Rika, was called Fanocracy. Fanocracy turns fans into customers and customers into fans. And it examines the neuroscience behind fandom and how it drives people's buying decisions. It's an excellent read. James Gregson began his career.
Hey Todd, I'm so sorry. Can I just pause you for a second because your audio is really cutting in and out right now. Can you try turning off your video and then we'll restart? And I'm so sorry for all of our attendees for this technical difficulty.
All of us.
Sorry. Yeah, David and James, you guys are great. I think it's just Todd spotty right now.
We're doing okay now.
No, it's still pretty bad. While we get that sorted out, I'm going to give the intro for David and James. And for everybody on the line, my name is Sam. I am a US marketing manager at TalkWalker, and thank you all so much again for being here for Building a Foundation of Fandom. So I would love to introduce our speakers today. So we have David Meerman Scott, who, as Todd mentioned, is a marketing and PR powerhouse. He's been at the forefront of the field for many years now as the author of The New Rules of Marketing and PR and the quote-unquote father of newsjacking. So he has been published in over 29 languages. His book has sold more than 400,000 copies worldwide. And his latest book, which we're going to be discussing today, he co-authored with his daughter, Rego Scott, and it's called Fanocracy, Turning Fans into Customers and Customers into Fans. And it really takes a deep dive into the neuroscience behind fandom and how it drives people's buying decisions. So really interesting stuff. Thank you, David, for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And we're also being joined by James Gregson. He is the director, head of social studio for Lego Agency in the Americas at the Lego Group. James has been in the industry for a while, but he began his career as a non-traditional brand strategist. And through that experience, he was able to build a combination of technical understanding and conceptual creativity to really craft effective, measurable programs for clients and brands alike. So now, as the senior leader within Lego's internal creative agency, he has been leading a team of digital content strategists, creative designers, producers, and video editors. And he's responsible for creating some best-in-class digital content for Lego and their social media channels. So really excited to hear about your experience with brand love and storytelling. And thank you all again so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, and excited to speak about a topic that is near and dear to my heart.
Same here. All right. Todd, can you check your audio one more time? And if not, I can kind of run through the rest of the introductions. All right. Gotta love the live that happen during these sessions these days.
Sam, you're doing a fabulous job here. So you're on an absolute roll, building fans as you're speaking.
I certainly hope so, David, from your lips. So before we hop into the meat of the presentation, I'd love to just kind of go over with everyone who TalkWalker is, who has brought you to this webinar. So we are the leading social listening and analytics company and power over 2,000 brands and agencies worldwide to optimize their impact and their communication efforts. And our company provides businesses with an easy-to-use platform where they can protect, measure, and promote their brands across all communication channels in 187 languages. TalkWalker was founded in Luxembourg, but we now operate in 6 offices across the globe with a dedicated team of data and engineering experts that's allowed TalkWalker to become a leader in AI and conversational intelligence. And also through this, we're able to work with people like David and James, who really like to dig into those nitty-gritty details of conversational intelligence. So hopefully we'll have a lot of insights to share across the board with you all today. So one thing that we're going to talk a lot about during today's webinar is brand love. So what exactly is brand love? It is a concept that a brand can make an impact on people's lives further than just on consumers' television screens and in retail aisles. So originally the term brand love was coined by Kevin Roberts of Saatchi & Saatchi in 2004. And it's a concept that essentially ignites consumers' passions. Love brands, as we've begun to call them internally at TalkWalker, have loyal fans that are long-term customers, and they advocate for their favorite companies and their products because of the positive way that they make them feel. And I think that this quote from Zig Ziglar really sums it up best. People don't buy for logical reasons, they buy for emotional reasons. We at TalkWalker really wanted to explore this concept because we think it's just super interesting learning about what makes people's and their buying decisions tick. So this year we put together a report which we have called the Brand Love Story, and we analyzed over 680 brands worldwide to see what makes people quote unquote love their products and services. So we tracked metrics like sentiment, mentions, and emotion-driven keywords such as best or my favorite in online conversations that people were having across industries to see who really gets the most advocacy for their customers. And as you can see from this graph here, it turns out that there's a diverse crowd of companies that fall into that lovable category. And it's not just specific to CPG or retail orgs that we typically think of as creating more campaign noise and getting a little bit more visibility in front of people with their marketing initiatives. Really, any brand has the potential to become a beloved brand with the right messaging and relationship building with their customers and their community. After we identified the top 50 most loved brands from our original analysis worldwide, we found that there are 11 common strategies that these companies employ that are truly driving customer loyalty and advocacy. So they're all outlined here, but to put it quickly, they are CSR, or corporate responsibility, nostalgia with customers' favorite sports team, or excuse me, nostalgia that connects customers' past loves and embraces love for their brand, sponsorship with customers' favorite sport teams, brands, and events, influencer marketing, partnerships and campaigns, trend engagement, engaging social media, fandoms, and strategy, customer experience that really creates a love for products and services and keeps customers coming back, aspirational narratives that really make customers want to be part of the story that brands are telling, fandoms that you can harness for both customer loyalty and content aggregation, which we'll go into a little bit more in depth, not to give too much away about today. Positive PR and just sharing those good brand stories to really make sure that the good things that you and your company are doing are seen by customers and potential customers alike. And employee advocacy, so really showing that through your customers, you're able to also bring good things and benefits to your employees as well. Now, obviously, all of these traits combined make for a very winning marketing strategy, but the one that we've really seen take off at TalkWalker through our own tool usage has been engaging fandoms. So that's what we're going to discuss mostly today with our experts on the line who have been doing it for years. We are constantly seeing these huge fandoms that use tools like TalkWalker alerts to make sure that they're measuring trends on the latest news of their favorite shows, celebrities, brands, pretty much anything under the sun, people are tracking through these if they're fans of it. And brands are often using our alert system to engage with those followings for everything from product sponsorship to user-generated content. So it's really interesting the ways that these fans are becoming part of the brand story and the ways that we see brands successfully using that. So David, your latest book takes a deep dive into the nature of fandom and how it drives decision-making. Can you share some of your thoughts with us on what online followings can reveal about customer loyalty?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to, Sam, and fabulous job picking up for the technical issues. So really, really, really well done, and building fans of Talkwalker every moment that you were speaking. So yeah, I did a really deep dive into the idea of fandom. Wrote a book called Fanocracy, Turning Fans into Customers and Customers into Fans. I actually co-wrote with my daughter, Reiko. She's 27 years old, and spent 5 years doing that research. But what I'd like to kick off with is I wondered if everybody could, in the chat, sending to all of us, please put in what you are a fan of. So go ahead and do that right now into the chat. It could be a company, it could be a sports team, it could be a rock band, it could be your hobby, it could be anything. Put into the chat what you're a fan of. Oh, hiking, I see. Rothy's shoes, that's a new one to me. That's interesting. Chewy.com, there's a brand. Sailing, the Oklahoma Sooners, the Las Vegas Raiders, Aerosmith and Sammy Hagar. A little known fact, my very first concert when I was 15 years old was Aerosmith. Coffee, Iron Man, Peloton. Peloton's a real popular one. So glad to see Lego up here. Another Lego. So these are some of the things that we're a fan of. People get super excited when they're talking about what they're a fan of. It's absolutely cool. And so what I'm going to do is spend just a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to pass on to James from Lego to do a deep dive in one particular brand, but talk about what we learned as we researched, my daughter and I, Reiko, the idea of fandom. So this idea of wanting to talk about fandom came to me about 5 years ago when I realized I am a massive fan of the Grateful Dead. I've been to 75 Grateful Dead concerts, the first one when I was 17 years old. I know that's incredibly geeky. The most recent one, Dead and Company, I saw 6 times last year, the Dead and Company. This is actually a photograph from one of those shows. Huge, huge fan of the Grateful Dead. And my daughter, Reiko, now 27 years old, we started this project. She was in her very early 20s, massive fan of Harry Potter. Not only has she seen every movie multiple times, read every book multiple times, been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter theme park in Orlando several times, she wrote an 85,000-word alternative ending to the Harry Potter series where Draco Malfoy is a spy for the Order of the Phoenix, and put that on a fan fiction site. It's been downloaded thousands of times, commented on hundreds of times. So we're different generations, we're different genders. My wife is Japanese, Reiko's mother, Japanese, and she was born in Tokyo. And she's actually a neuroscientist, did a neuroscience degree at Columbia, and now is an emergency room resident at Boston Medical Center. So we came together with 2 utterly different perspectives on the idea of fandom, and especially wanted to dig into the neuroscience of fandom. It turns out, having spoken with a number of neuroscientists, that what's going on in our brains when we become a fan of something is that we want to be part of a tribe of like-minded people. All humans are hardwired to want to be part of a tribe of like-minded people. So here's me with my Grateful Dead friends at a show last year, and this is my tribe. And these are my friends, but I could go up to anybody at that show, even if I'd never met them, know that they're part of the tribe and have a conversation with them as if we're old friends. A tribe of like-minded people. And that's what the brand love report that Talkwalker put together. These are people who love to be a part of a particular tribe. We're going to learn about the Lego tribe in just a couple of minutes from James. But sometimes people say to me, but David, our brand can't build fans. And they give me an excuse. You know, we're a commodity brand. We're a nonprofit. We're a government agency. We're a B2B software company. You know, they're bringing the excuse along about why they can't build fans. And Reiko and I found examples of all kinds of different brands that have fans. And just to share one organization that's kind of surprising, I think, we found a US government agency that has over 50 million fans. This US government agency, you can be walking down the street in any city in the world and not be surprised. We'll put into chat if you can guess who I'm talking about now. You can be walking down the street in any city in the world and not be surprised if somebody approaches you wearing a t-shirt with this organization on. I see someone already popped in with the correct answer. It is indeed NASA. NASA is a government agency. NASA has 50 million fans. You can see people with NASA t-shirts anywhere in the world. And this idea of fandom actually helps them to get funding, because so many people love NASA, the government has to fund that agency because people love it. And they do super well. They have a huge, huge following on social media. One of the elements of fandom that Sam mentioned in her opening, they have 60 million followers on Instagram, for example. NASA doing a fabulous job. So I wanted to do a bit of a dive into one aspect of fandom that's really important, and that you'll hear specifically from Lego in a minute about how they've really embraced this concept. And that's the idea of letting go of your creations. What we learned by speaking with a number of different organizations that have built fans is that once you put your product or service or idea out into the marketplace, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the fans. Once you put your product, service, or idea out there, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the fans. And we looked at this idea, which we called curative fandom versus transformative fandom. Curative fandom is the idea of the official fandom. This is the official website, the official social media. This is the way the brand itself talks to fans. Transformative fandom, however, is when the fans take over, and it's when the fans create their own website, their own video, their own social media. I want to share a couple of examples of this idea of curative versus transformative in some other areas besides the idea of fandom. So curative is classical music. It's playing the notes exactly how they are on the score. Transformative fandom in the music world, jazz, riffing, doing improvisation, a very different form of music. How about this one with cars? You've got curative fandom, people who want to make their car look exactly like it came out of the factory 75 years ago. Then you've got transformative fandom, people taking that car, turning it into a hot rod, something completely different from what the original manufacturer intended. You've got curative fandom, which is the official Major League Baseball statistics, versus transformative fandom, which is fantasy baseball, turning it into something new, turning it into something different. My favorite example of these various concepts, the book Hamilton, The Facts of Alexander Hamilton's Life. Then you've got transformative fandom, which is the play and now the movie Hamilton, where it's being changed, Hamilton's life being changed into something different, a race-bent play told in rap about Alexander Hamilton's story. Now, it was interesting to us that some historians hate the idea of Hamilton the play because it's not true history. But when you do transformative fandom, you change it into something else. The organizations that support that are the ones that are fabulously successful. I want to share two examples of organizations. One that has not embraced transformative fandom, and that would be Adobe. The second is an organization that has, and then we'll pass off to James, an organization that's done amazingly well with transformative fandom. So Adobe, the manufacturer of Photoshop and other software products. My daughter, Reiko, my co-author in Fanocracy, huge fan of creating art using Photoshop. And she came to me as we were writing our book and said, I have a great example, because Photoshop doesn't like people like me who create art using Photoshop. They love their corporate customers, but they don't love their individual artist customers. They tell us, and all of her friends laugh at Adobe. They laugh at the companies whose product they use because they try to tell these independent artists how to engage with the brand that they're using. They tell those artists, trademarks are not verbs. They tell those artists how to engage with those brands. They say, it is incorrect to say the image was photoshopped. That's incorrect. You must say the image was enhanced using Adobe, trademark R, Photoshop, trademark R software. Adobe says trademarks must never be used in the possessive form. They say it's incorrect to say Photoshop's new features are impressive. It is correct to say the new features in Adobe, trademark R Photoshop, trademark R software are impressive. So Reiko said, it's like Adobe is saying it's incorrect to be a fan. And she and her friends on social media, people who love to make art using Photoshop, are laughing at the brand whose product they're using because they're trying to control the way that those artists are talking about their product. So instead, if you want to grow fans and maybe next year or the year after be a part of the Talkmarker Brand Love Report, let your fans own your product, because that's how you become super successful. Embrace that transformative form of fandom. Now, here's just a real quick example of one that I totally love. This is the Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner. And, you know, it's a vacuum cleaner. It's designed to go around your home or office and clean up automatically. But there's a whole subculture of people who have created an amazing form of curative fandom by putting their animals, their dogs and cats, on those Roombas, and they go, and it's like an Uber for your kitty, and they go around the house. Now, what they could have done at iRobot is say, no, that is not a proper use of our product. But instead they celebrate the idea, and now there's literally tens of millions of views of videos of dogs and cats riding on top of Roomba. This idea of curative fandom, one more quick example. Reiko is a huge fan of the Morrigan, which is a character in a book that she loves, called The Wicked and the Divine. So she went to Comic-Con dressed up with her friends in the three forms of the Morrigan. Here's Reiko, she's in the middle. And this was when she went and she met the artists who are the drawers of this particular book. And she was worried about what they would say, because she's transforming their art into her manifestation of that fandom, which is her getting dressed up at Comic-Con to represent the character. They were nervous about meeting the people who drew that art, but instead they jumped out of their chair and they say, that's amazing, you guys look fabulous. And in fact, it was the artists themselves who took this photo of them and put it on social media. Embrace the idea of curative fandom. So this idea of brand love is built on the experience of all of the members, all of the people who love your brand, not just what you say about it, not just the imaginations of one creator. So it's my honor now to pass over to James, who's going to share with us some of his ideas around how he was able and Lego is able to work with this idea of curative fandom, and he'll tell us way more than that. So James, you're up.
Thanks so much, David. Appreciate all that great insight, and thanks, Todd, for having me on. First off, I'd obviously like to say that it's a real honor to be considered, within this report, working for a brand that is considered the most loved brand. I don't think anyone would be mad at that, and it's I wouldn't want to undercut what that means to us as employees on a daily basis, right? So, I think a lot of the vast majority of our employees, my team, myself included, really live and breathe the purpose of the brand, right? And if you look at, purpose-driven marketing and purpose-driven branding being very, very hot topic right now, I think what's fascinating is that Lego has been, as a prime example of that being within their DNA. They are a creative, problem-solving, physical, tangible toy. There's nothing that anyone can't like about that. So I can't take obviously any of that credit, because that credit goes back to our founder and the whole purpose of the product. But I wanted to go just give you a little bit of context about my role that Sarah sort of gave a little insight into. So I head up our social studio, which is responsible for creating a lot of the organic social content that you'll see across Lego social channels. So we're sort of very in touch with what's trending across social, what our fans and our communities are saying about us. And, when the sort of right art meets science approach hits, we will determine whether we're going to react to a trend or create a piece of content in response to a comment and those sort of things. So that's really my team's purpose and my sort of the value that we bring to the business. I wanted to sort of touch on what I think is a really important factor to how we build fans and how we sort of create this fandom. And I think for us within the social creative space, our content strategy is a foundation to that and a critical component to that. So we really talk about, inspiring the builders of tomorrow. That is a brand statement. It is part of our mission at every level of the business, but it's really sort of the foundation to our content strategy. So everything that you see across Lego social channels should inspire builders of tomorrow, right? And what a great statement that, of course, down the funnel hopefully creates fans of the product. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, our hardcore fans, right? We have a hardcore group of fans that are called AFOLs, AFOLs, Adult Fans of Lego. There's a documentary about them. They are all shapes, creeds, sizes across the globe, and they are the definition of these fans. And as sort of part of our, content strategy, there's an entire, product segment dedicated to these fans as part called Lego Ideas. But from a social perspective, we've really leaned in to those fans, and there is sort of an official content stream across Instagram, for example, where we are regularly using fan created content and celebrating those fans because in some cases they do things better than we do. Right. I think the epitome of that example is a video that I wanted to share today, which just to give you a little context before we share it, is from a creator that's roughly, he's under 20 years old. And it's for a movie trailer of the Avengers. And, that creator that created this stop motion video that we'll share in a second, it was able to create that video, I believe, in about 8 days. The individual, the producer of the video, sees the trailer the same time that anyone else sees a trailer. And it was a fascinating exercise to go through and think, we would love to share that content. It's amazing content. Why can't we create something like that? The reality is, for us to create content as strong as this fan is creating it and many other fans would cost us a lot of money. It would probably take us a lot longer time. And there's no reason that we wouldn't want to celebrate those fans. So without further ado, I'd love to share that example. Sarah, if you could cue it up.
The entire time I knew him, he only ever had one goal. To wipe out half the universe. If he gets all the Infinity Stones, he can do it with the snap of his fingers. Just like that.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos.
We got one advantage. He's coming to us. We have what Thanos wants, so that's what we use.
Let's talk about this plan of yours. I think it's good, except it sucks. So let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
Wow. The end is near. When I'm done, half of humanity will still exist. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I hope they remember you.
I'm Peter, by the way.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, you're using your made-up names. Then I am Spider-Man.
Love sharing that. It's always so exciting. It's a great piece of content. And as I just to, again, provide additional context, right? Context to that. That to me is the epitome of fandom and the epitome of what I think a lot of brands would love to have their brand be capable of doing, but also have their fans be capable of doing on their behalf, right? That was completely unsolicited. That creator is creating that content for their joy and as a hobby. And I think the other sort of nuance to that is that there's also, you know, there's a handful of reasons why Lego, the brand, couldn't create content like that, but we can share and celebrate fans creating content like that. So it gives us a fantastic, sorry to say it, loophole to enable us to, you know, publish content of that nature.
Don't be sorry.
Well, you never know. So yeah, that's all for me, Todd. I wanted to, you know, hand it off back to you if you had, you know, wanted to ask any questions or.
Actually, if you don't mind, James, can I ask the first question? I mean, just
You go for it.
what seems to me to be so fascinating about what you're doing, or I guess you could also argue what you're not doing, is that you're engaged in social, no doubt about it, but what I would call curative fandom and transformative fandom are both happening. I mean, that video is amazing. I've seen a whole bunch of other stuff that people have done. There's like crazy amounts of video that's uploaded every single day by fans of Lego. How do you walk the line between communicating as a brand, but also letting people do their thing, not getting in their way, but as appropriate, celebrating who they are? I mean, you don't want to screw that up, obviously, but at the same time, there's so much opportunity to get involved. How do you kind of walk that tightrope?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we have a dedicated team to this, right? So I can't speak to it at great detail, but there's a whole entire Lego community engagement team that really work to sort of facilitate these micro communities or these AFOLs that are, you know, fan groups that that really do, cultivate that sort of that creation amongst themselves. Obviously we give them the tools, the bricks to do so. And as you said, it's our goal not to get in the way, right? Yeah, in some cases, it's not about trying to, to stop people from doing things. We want to encourage them to do it, right? And that's where, there's plenty of reasons why that content could get copyrighted off of YouTube, right? Plenty of reasons. But it's very important that we, that both our partners, right, Marvel in that instance, and us as Lego, let that content breathe and let that content get seen and consumed by others, because at the end of the day, it's very clearly celebrating Lego and Marvel, celebrating the movie. It checks all the boxes from a marketing angle. It's just maybe not created, not overseen, and also not paid for by the brand, right? So I think it's always about, we don't want to go legal on people, right? That's the end of the day, unless there's a reason to. And it's just about giving people the tools to create content that celebrate what your brand is about.
Well, congratulations, an awesome job. So Todd, I'll leave it to you now for other questions.
Yeah, James, I just am so impressed in what the organization has done. You have one of the widest demographics out there, from age 4 to age 99. You're not only doing bricks, you're doing movies, you're doing reality television, birthday cakes. I mean, you name it, you guys are building, and you are a leader out there, and you really are showing what is possible. And one thing that I saw just last week, you guys reached 10 billion video views on YouTube. Like, what does that mean? Is that a big deal? What type of big deal is that?
I mean, yes, it's a massive accomplishment. I think it does speak to, again, I can't take the credit for it necessarily, but it speaks to, obviously there's a global pandemic, right? Where a lot of people are stuck at home and have been stuck at home for a great deal of time. So I think it's within the calendar year, we've reached, I think it's now 12 billion views in total. That number is definitely being impacted by people being stuck at home, people hopefully staying safe and continuing to stay home. So I can't take too much credit for that, outside of the fact that obviously there's a very important brand strategy out there that we as a brand want to become more than a toy company, right? So that started with the movies, that's then, evolved into, other sort of entertainment venues, video games, reality TV. We really want to be that experience brand that is beyond just a physical toy. So I think, part of that, an element of that experience strategy is, evolving a toy brand into, a production house in some way, shape, or form, right? With a huge amount of video content, right? And at a global level, I believe we have on that YouTube channel, I believe we have tens of thousands of videos on there, right? So it's a balance of a volume game, as well as, understanding where our audiences want to be, and we want to meet them there. Right. And I'm willing to bet if we were going to compare, say, branded YouTube video views to, branded website video views, I'm willing to bet there's a massive disparity between those numbers. And that's because we know consumers are on YouTube, and we know they spend a lot of time on YouTube. So we want to deliver a really strong brand experience on where they are.
Wonderful. David, I have a question for you from Heather. How do you suggest the new B2B brand build fandom with super techie people?
Oh, a lot of people say to me, can we do this with B2B as well? And the answer is absolutely yes. And in fact, in your brand love report, there are some B2B brands in there. I just presented recently at a Microsoft event, and they have a huge number of fans, and primarily B2B. So absolutely, you can still do it. I think what it comes down to is really understanding who it is you're trying to reach and what are the problems that they face, and then creating the kind of things that are worthy of engagement. And, I mentioned the idea of how there's the neuroscience aspects of this idea of fandom and how we all want to be part of a tribe of like-minded people. And you can see with Lego that it's an absolute tribe of people. And if you find out that you're a Lego enthusiast and someone else is also a Lego enthusiast, you all of a sudden have something in common. But another aspect of neuroscience that's really interesting is called mirror neurons, the part of our brains that fire when we see somebody doing something as if we're doing it ourselves. And that actually explains why video is so powerful, because our brains are telling us that even though intellectually you know that I'm not in the same room with you, I'm hundreds or thousands of miles away, your brain tells you that we are in the same room because your mirror neurons fire and say, oh, David's right here. And so video is a fabulous way, especially video looking directly at the camera, talking in a natural way. You know, you don't need any special lights or anything else. And that's a great way for B2B companies, technology companies, to communicate the use of video. So what I'm recommending to all B2B companies, especially now during the pandemic when we can't meet in person, is double down on video, especially casual talking directly to the camera, explaining things, video. Put those on your social networks, especially LinkedIn for B2B. Put it onto create a YouTube channel if you want, or if you already have one, and also put video throughout your website so that you're communicating with people. It could quite literally be on every single page. Goes a long way to building fans.
Yeah, if there's one thing I've learned in the analysis that we've done with the dashboard reports that are set up for customers at Talkwalker, is that those pieces of content that have video draw the most amount of engagement. And one thing that James really said very well was the UGC, the user-generated content. We saw last year, Tesla, for example, their #1 most engaged piece of content they had was not from them. It was a UGC a content of a person 2 stories up in his apartment, parking his car, just moving it forward so he didn't get a ticket.
Wow.
Just moving it a couple of inches, and it was from his phone, and it got thousands and thousands of hits, more than anything that Tesla put together that they tried to, let's say, force or create. And James, I applaud you guys for really embracing the user-generated content and the purpose that you have in terms of putting things together. David, you once shared with me an example of a dentist that did something clever and gets a lot of patients. Can you share that with the folks? Because this isn't just CPG.
Yeah, you know, one of the most surprising things that we learned as we were researching this idea of fandom was the idea of passion and how important passion is. Because passion, it turns out, is infectious. And so, especially when your employees have passion for what they do, and even when they have passion for things in their private life, for what they're a fan of. Like when we kicked off the session, or when I kicked off my part of the session, I asked what you're a fan of, and people eagerly put in the things that they're a fan of. If you celebrate those things that you're a fan of publicly on your social media, or when you meet people, or on your LinkedIn, for example, then that passion becomes infectious. And the dentist, his name is Dr. John Marashi. Dr. Marashi met me about maybe 3 years ago at a Tony Robbins event. I speak at Tony Robbins Business Mastery events, and I was talking about fandom and how to grow fans. And he came up to me afterwards and said, "David, I'm a dentist. I don't have fans." And I said, "Well, where are you a dentist, Dr. Marashi?" He says, "Oh, I'm in Southern California. There's 10,000 dentists in Southern California. We're all the same." And I said, "You're not all the same. What do you love to do?" And he says, "I love to skateboard, huge skateboarder." And I said, "Well, why don't you celebrate the fact that you love to skateboard?" Which is exactly what he did. So he has, and he took me up on my challenge to do this. In his office, he has skateboards on the wall. He skateboards from one examination room to another. He has on his website, his practice website, pictures of him skateboarding. He created an Instagram. He has now 15,000 followers on his Instagram, a dentist with 15,000 followers, where something like a third of the photos are of him skateboarding. And he actually reached out to me out of the blue a couple of months ago and said, David, I just wanted to thank you for that suggestion. I've been talking about the fact that I'm a skateboarding dentist now. And last year, I can absolutely measure that I grew my practice by 30%, just that one thing. And the reason is because he's not now one of 10,000 dentists. He's the skateboarding dentist. And it's not because people are skateboarders who want to do business with Dr. Marashi. It's people who just love that he's passionate about something. And so it doesn't matter what you're passionate about. You can be passionate about Lego. You can be passionate about Peloton. You can be like me, passionate about the Grateful Dead, or Reiko, passionate about Harry Potter. Sharing the thing that you're passionate about is infectious and helps you to grow fans. That was the most surprising thing we learned in doing our research. A great way to build fans is just to share the thing that you love, because that's attractive to people.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And I'll use another example. Lego is probably a bad example of this because, Todd, as you said, we do tend to market all things to all people, right? So it's not necessarily about these niche groups or micro communities. But I use an example where I can't remember the name of it, but basically it was a swimming pool company. And the swimming pool company was based on the West Coast somewhere. And they hired, I think it was the owner's kid, teenager, to do some social media. So he played around with Facebook, didn't get anywhere with Facebook, played around with some Facebook ads, didn't really get any traction, got a few people. Then decided, I'm going to share on behalf of my company or my dad's company. I'm going to create an Instagram handle and share the greatest pools from around the world, right? And it's just basically a curated pooled Instagram, right? Now, I didn't get to the point whether it drove a lot of business, but it definitely drove a lot of traffic to their website. It definitely must have drove customer interest, but basically at the time they had something like 10,000 followers for a pool company in a single market, right? Again, to the point being that you have to have that singular point of view, that singular thing that you are a fan of, that you can then engage with other people around that concept. It doesn't need to be so widespread. And if it's on a B2B scale, it's just going to potentially be a smaller audience. But if you're passionate about it and you're specific and direct about what you want to try and engage people around, I'm willing to bet over time as well, it's a critical thing, and these things don't happen immediately. Over time, you'll start building communities.
And I just add one really short, another example. I was talking to Reiko actually about 2 hours ago. We just had a little Zoom call, and she's now an emergency room doctor at Boston Medical Center. And I asked her about treating COVID patients, and she said in a way it's terrible because she wears multiple masks and a shield, and all of her skin is covered, 2 pairs of gloves, and she looks like a Martian coming in to speak to speak to the patients, and they have nothing to relate to. And she said that many of the doctors, herself included, have taken to be putting on pins or masks, branded masks and pins. And she'll wear, for example, a Boston Bruins mask. And the patients light up because there's something to relate to. They've got the sort of the completely head to toe covered, space suit where they walk in, but they can relate to the fact that the mask is a logo mask from a sports team, or they've got a pin of their favorite band or whatever it might be. That what they're passionate about is how they relate as a human to this patient who's suffering and has nothing else to relate to because they can't see the doctor that they're dealing with.
Very relevant. We should get that word out more and more as a follow-up. Thanks for sharing that. Gentlemen, is there anything else, last remarks that you'd like to share with the audience? Really appreciate all your time here. David, I will ask you in another slide, how people can get your book, and we'll share everyone that information as well as the brand love report. But is there anything else that you guys wanted to finish off with?
Nothing for me. Thanks again for having me, and thanks to everyone that participated. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to learn from James. Thank you, James. And the thing I would add, I kind of said it already a couple different ways, but anybody can do this. Any organization, anybody who's on this webinar right now or listening to the replay sometime in the future, every single one of you has an opportunity to build fans. Don't be sucked into the fear-based excuse that your organization can't do it because you're not like Lego. Everybody can do it, and there's no question about that. And it's actually a lot more fun to build fans and grow a business that way than the long, hard slog that so much of us do to use advertising or other ways to try to get new business. So thanks, Todd, for having us on. This has been great.
Thank you. To receive a free book from David, you can go on to the Talkwalker website, talkwalker.com, and it's the U.S. event registration page. And we have lots of books that you can just click on to your name, and we'll mail that out to you. And it'll be a nice one to keep on your shelf. And then I'll just put that out there. I've done this before. If you mail the book back to an author, sometimes they sign it and then they mail it back to you. I don't know how many people really do that, but maybe that's an option in this virtual world for those takers that would do that, David.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that for anyone who wants to do it. And
just put
it doesn't
postage back with an envelope just to make it easy for them.
Yeah, we'll make it easy. So all good.
Yeah. And if people want to read the report to know the other 50 companies of brands that were loved, we have the downloaded report to Brand Love Story for 2020 with all the case studies. There was one, number 5, I remember, was Vertex Pharmaceuticals. They came out with some really good solutions for ailments, and their brand was loved. And there were some hotels in there and financial institutions and insurance companies. So again, I encourage everyone to be able to take that book. And thank you, audience, for joining us. This will be recorded as well, so you can share this with folks. And we look forward to doing the next one. Have a great day, everyone.